Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the first Wasteless World Talks of 2024. Here is Bill and Kevin with me, and today we will have a special topic again. We will talk about gratitude. And because last time we started with Bill, I will start with Kevin today. So if you close your eyes and I tell the term gratitude, what do you see first, Kevin?
Well, what I actually see is a word very similar to it, and I can't split the two apart. So I see gratitude and gratuitous as kind of two sides of the same coin. So gratitude is a kind of thanks. It's given it's kind of a reward for doing something. So someone would be, and whereas gratuitous is something which is done free of charge or something that's done without good reason. So the relationship between these three meanings, I think, is just so interesting.
That's interesting. Never thought about it. And what about you, Bill?
Gratitude to me, gratitude 2 or 3 years ago, I said for a New Year's resolution, I need to show more gratitude. So that was my resolution. And I thought, gee, that's a good thing to do. But I came to realize that gratitude is simply recognizing a quid pro quo. That is, you show gratitude for something only because you've been given something. It is not selfless. So it may be a good word, but it's not on the top of the list.
If you take this word and appreciation, is there any connection?
Yes, they are close. But if I show appreciation for something, that does not necessarily mean I am being thankful for it. It means that I appreciate its good qualities. So appreciate I can appreciate a flower. I can appreciate a sunset. I can appreciate so many things when I'm not actually being given that. Gratitude to me is my giving something back after I have received something. So it's a little bit tarnished.
Yeah, but isn't there this expression, we owe you a debt of gratitude?
Well, enough said. So it's a quid pro quo.
Yeah.
Why I ask about the appreciation, because in the noon talk, we came immediately, it turned from gratitude to appreciation. So we spent an hour talking about appreciation, in fact, but we started with the gratitude. And that was very interesting because it was one of the, I will say, one of the strongest discussion and one of the most emotional. It was very interesting to start the year with.
It's interesting that you use the word emotional. Appreciation, and it was an emotional conversation. How did it get emotional?
If you appreciate, you mentioned the sunshine or sunrise, it's something so beautiful. Or if somebody appreciate, come to you, Pet mentioned a very interesting occasion when somebody came to her after years, and the person said, Pet, I changed because of you, because of your words. And she has one very interesting way how she do her speeches on conferences. She said, every single time I buy for the organizer a bucket and a spade. And before I start, I gave it to them on the stage to thanks for them that they prepared the ground for all of us to deliver the speech. And she said they appreciate it so strong that even years later, they are telling me, I have it on my table to remember that. So this is where the emotion came.
I think during the First and Second World War, if somebody, a soldier, lost their life, then the state or the king, in the case of England, would say that the nation owes the family a debt of gratitude for the sacrifice made to them, which in a way has kind of, it is a quid pro quo, but it's wrapped up in emotion, but it's fairly cynical emotion.
One of the topics which we came to was whether the animals and plants can show gratitude and appreciate. And it was very interesting because we came to the conclusion, yes, and they are even better than us in showing it. And there was another discussion whether at the beginning we started, there is a very little gratitude and appreciation today. And we came to the conclusion that one of the reasons may be the digitalization of our life. You know, you don't need to tell to your mobile you are happy or you welcome it. No, because it will not pay back. It will not give you anything back. So we came to the conclusion it can be one of the reasons why the people do not see the gratitude or show the gratitude or appreciation anymore, because, you know, digital does not need it and does not give it to you. Of course, you can say the likes and everything is the gratitude. No, it's not. It's just a sign of count or whatever, but it's not a gratitude. It was interesting, really interesting.
The digitization of the world also leads us into being remote from each other, I think. I no longer have to go to the office. I can do this. I no longer have the touch. We've talked about touch several times, and I no longer have the handshake. I met a friend for lunch yesterday, and we hugged, we embraced, and we've lost a lot of that, and so that makes. So I think gratitude is an outward reach. Maybe an outward reach of thankfulness or something. But with digitization, I hold it in. I think about myself a lot more than if I'm at an event where I have friends on either side and I'm listening to someone that I appreciate up on the stage. That is more, you know, my attention is going over there, it's going over there, it's listening to this, and so it's outwardly directed. Digitization and remote working allows us to skip that feely touchy and to simply absorb. We're just receptors, and so I see the digitization as a negative. It is anti-community. It is it's a whole bunch of things. I see gratitude as one way to reverse that. If we teach gratitude, if we show gratitude, we will get gratitude back. That's not the reason we do it, but that's a human bond like this that digitization shields us from.
Actually, building on from that, Bill, you could say then that appreciation is an emotion and gratitude isn't an emotion. Gratitude is an obligation rather than an emotion. And in the digital world, obligations are much easier to communicate than emotions.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
And you just mentioned something which is very interesting. You said it's much easier, but you didn't say it's impossible. And you know, every of our Wasteless World Talks and many of the talks which we have, we are all at least I feel that even when I deliver remotely, the emotions, I can transfer the emotions.
But you have to work at that.
Yes, you
That
have to.
that doesn't come naturally.
That's
To come
correct.
naturally, a presentation is bullet points and the display up there, and that becomes very inhuman. So that's such a key to be able to get emotions, humanness into a presentation.
For sure. I just was today in the morning, I was listening to a discussion about the Czech education system. There has been the, let's say, the owner of the private colleges here in school, a very rich man. And there was a teacher on a private school, and there was a, let's say, he called himself a professional parent. He was a journalist and lead it quite well. And there came one moment when they said, okay, so we have the marks, so we can evaluate the other students, but we cannot, or we are not evaluating the teachers. And that was quite interesting because yes, you remember we talked about this before, and it was really interesting. And I send you, I just have to point it out. 2 weeks ago, we discussed about the elevator. And I sent you yesterday the article about elevator and industry 5.0. There was no content. I think it was in the magazine itself, but it was quite a crazy stuff that elevators start to implement industry 5.0 after our discussion. It is the same like President Biden. So, you know, we are the first, they are the next.
I'm sure we will receive a lot of gratitude from them.
You know, in 2024, I feel there will be a lot of changes and a lot of significant changes, even with the people, with the giants themselves. We are preparing the ground because it's so easy to get them down because they are already dead. So you just need to blow a little bit and they will fall down because they do not live anymore. And it's the question whether we as humans will be able to take over, or really to be the ones. I just started a poll a few days ago, 2 days ago, I think, who kill in wars? And the people can choose soldiers, weapons, governments, and I didn't thought about it. Last number which I have seen, 68 people vote for governments. That was very, very interesting. And so many people voted. It's not standard that so many people vote on my awareness polls. And it was very interesting. So I think there is a lot of, and the question is whether the appreciation or our way how we behave, or not if, but how it will speed up or make the process workable or more efficient. You know, we spoke a lot of times, and you introduced the term hijacking of the language. And I think there is a lot of hijacked. But I don't think, for example, that the gratitude was hijacked. It was just left on the side. Nobody take care about it. You mentioned the UK war or the Second World War, but I think it lost generally in the time already. But they are for sure, they are terms which has been no hijacked yet, but can be utilized. And this may be one of those.
So an interesting test somebody did where a woman would walk in the street and she would deliberately drop her purse. And then they could see who picked it up. And if she asked them, have you seen my purse? Some would give it back, some wouldn't. But if she touched their arm and said, could you help me? I've lost my purse. Almost everybody gave her the purse, which I think is really, really, really interesting because just this human touch means it's no longer a transaction. It's something much more emotional.
I think in general, the power of touch is really, really important. I see it in the entire work which I do for the almost 11 years. So it's so interesting. Never thought about it in this way. But every single day, I have new proof that it really works. And this is a great example. And I
And that was
yes.
a strange thing. I was talking yesterday to a professional singer, and he sings in a choir, and he's just been on a series of courses in Germany. And you would think that singing was about voice training, stuff like this. No, it's so much more than that. Whole parts of the body are used to sing. So it's a huge projection, and a lot of it is physical, and a lot of it is psychological. How to generate this noise, how to project the voice. It's absolutely fascinating. There was so much more to it than you would ever imagine.
I liken that to a presentation or someone who is good giving presentations, which is more than simply the words or the bullet points, or it is it is the whole person, including their emotions, including their being. They're trying to get something across, and and I've always thought that this is what makes a manager or a leader a good leader, in that they're not just giving, okay, here's the goal and here's the strategy, right? They are giving themselves physically, maybe dancing around the room or waving their arm, whatever. But there, you can tell from this presentation, from this display, that they are 100% engaged in what it is that they're giving you. It's not simply an off the cuff, here's a list, follow this list. And yes, and so I think a lot of professions are like that. It's more than simply knowing, it's more than simply um, presenting. It's putting your body and putting your soul into that.
I think with the presentation, there is one big issue which we are facing or for a long time. The presentation can be prepared by somebody else. And 99% of the presentation are not written by the politicians. They are just reading them sometime. But, you know, and this is the difference to the product which you produce. This is when you produce your presentation. You are there. If it's about your work, if you produce it for someone else, generally you don't care. You just do the work and they will read it. It's the way of the most horrible presentation, which luckily are not so frequent anymore, when somebody is staying on the stage and reading what is behind them. Luckily, not so many, but unfortunately, all the political presentations which I have seen in the last years are almost the same. So written by someone else. Even I don't know whether it's a common in the US, and I think it's everywhere, for the president or the head of the states to read a New Year's message. In my country on January 1st, all the time at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It was not bad. It was not bad, but it was not personal. It was different. So you can feel it. It's the same like if AI, and I think we are not far from the moment when AI will write the speech.
Yeah, and why not? I mean, politicians are just bad actors. At least good actors can deliver good lines in a believable way. Politicians, they're more like puppets. They're manipulated, they're fed lines. They do what they're told.
Just wonder, do you think that Ronald Reagan was better? Because he was an actor first.
He told fantastic jokes.
Yeah, did he? I do remember him, but I do not remember any of his speeches because I think at the time I haven't spoken any English. So
He was, when you listen to him, whether it was a speech or a conversation, he was fully engaged, and it felt when listening to him like, okay, here's somebody who has worked like I have worked, who has sweat paying the bills, and has here's somebody that I can believe, even though I didn't agree with what he was saying, but you could believe him simply by his presentation. It was that good. It was that good. Well, they call him the great communicator.
Uh, I think we do not need to go so back in a history generally. If we look at Zelensky, at the beginning, his speeches has been really powerful. Today, it's the same like Greta. Nobody is listening anymore because the speech lost its content. It's all the time the same, asking for money because we need to kill more and so on. So it's generally repeating. And I think that the first speeches, he even don't need to write it because it was really, we need to stop it because we do not want this. But today he is out of the game already. And I said like Greta, at her first speeches has been really powerful, but she lost it a few months later when the giants recognized the power she can have for their own publicity. Just to taking a selfie, inviting Greta and inviting many of the COP28 young people, it was quite interesting to listen to that. And I am aiming some more. And crazy part, you remember that I wrote about, and we spoke about the Stockholm syndrome. 2 months later, BBC started to use this term with COP28 or someone else in the media. I don't remember. It's quite funny. So I'm not angry anymore. It's just funny. So I take it as a standard. But this year it will change. So it's quite interesting.
Maybe
Giants.
that's not a bad thing. Maybe that is a natural progression of people on the outside um, talking about what the inside should look like. And maybe even here is a path to get the inside either more responsive or more democratic or more whatever. Um, and and honestly, and you touched on this at the beginning today. I think that 2024 we will continue to see more and more and more things such as transparency. And that's one of the wonderful things about digitalization and social media, and everybody carries a camera and videos, and you can't get away with stuff as easily as you could before. And they're catching congressmen, and they're catching husbands cheating on wives, and they're catching and so on. Um, and it didn't used to be that way. I can remember growing up, we knew the congressmen had girlfriends, and they had, but it was not generally accepted. So the more that the institutions, whether that be government or church or big business, um, suffer this transparency, the lower their credibility goes, and the more people begin to say, "I don't think that's right," and that's one of the things that's fueling your movement, Michael. I believe is people are saying more and more, "I just don't think that's right," and and what can I do about it? And so I'm looking forward to 2024 bringing ever increasing transparency and bringing uh, some sort of moral judgment. That's just not right. Uh, it will become more widespread, and that's so different. When I started out 50 years ago, I wanted to work for a big company, and I wanted to work for them for 40 years and get my retirement, get my gold watch. and working for that big company gave me a purpose, allowed me to feed my family, and so on. And it's just not that way anymore. Nobody wants to work for a well, a lot of people come out of school not wanting to work for a big company anymore. They want to make their dream come true, start their own startup, and so on. And I think that's a wonderful that democratization, the amount of information that we are in control of. It's really neat. I'm very hopeful for 2024 and the next few years because of trends like this and movements like yours. Wasteless is a wonderful move.
It's interesting, transparency. You see that for the Greta is because she was hijacked by the giants and everyone could see it. It's so blatantly obvious that she has been hijacked. I think the other interesting, if you think about gratitude, if you work for the same company for 40 years, a gold watch isn't gratitude. I mean, it's thank goodness those days are over. And the interesting thing, it's these big businesses, they broke the mold, thank God, so that there's no longer a lifetime guarantee in any job, if it's in banking or it's whatever, like it used to be. The railways, all of that has gone now. So everything has become more insecure, but more interesting, more dynamic.
I love it because when you work for the same company for 40 years, you sell your soul and you put up with indiscretions and things that should not happen because you want the rest of your 40 years to play out and you don't want to jeopardize that. So it's out of fear, and giants know that. That's the way they set it up like that. And the giants cause have caused their own decline and fall and death. And the reason that I say that is because when I started and thought about a company, working at a company for 40 years, um, I I got what did I get? I got a pension, company paid pension. And the company say, "Oh, we don't want to be funding those things anymore. That's a lot of money off the bottom line. Let's pass some laws and make them fund their own retirement, which now is, 401k or an IRA or whatever here in the States." So the big businesses, the giants, got out from under that heavy pension burden. And then the next thing they said was, we don't want to have company health insurance policies, so we'll make them fund their own. And so they have one by one, they have shifted the burden over to the worker. But by the same token, they no longer have the gratitude, they no longer have the attraction that they did when they were the source of financial security, right? And they say, well, we don't want to be. It's too expensive to be the source of the financial security. So shift it off to the workers. So they caused a lot of their own problems, uh, and and I'm glad that they did because most people can stand on their own 2 feet.
Today there was 3 news reach me. The first, the latest Harvard president of Harvard, a lady, she quit generally. She was the shortest serving president of Harvard University, 6 months and 2 days. She was assigned after the accusation that Harvard is a racist, so she's black and she's women. But she probably cannot work in this environment anymore because I think she has her own way or the understanding of the topic. So she became part of the giant and then she quit. The next one was the big four, so KPMG, PwC, and these 2 more. they are facing frauds. So many that they start to change their own policies, which is exactly what you said. And the last one was quite interesting, and I forgot it already, so I will give you the word. Maybe I will come to it. This is the two senior golfers joke. It's exactly the same.
Yeah, I think I thought of a phrase while you were talking, and I don't know if you have this in Europe, but we call it having skin in the game. So what that means is I can comment on what you do or what's coming my way. Um, I can comment on it. I can pass judgment on it. I can do all sorts of things. But if my future is not tied to the outcome, then I have no skin in the game and I'm just flapping my jaws, right? And that's one reason that some people here in America think that everybody should pay an income tax. Even the poor people should pay, even if it's only $1. Because if you don't pay income tax, and something like a third or 40% of people in the US do not pay income tax. If you do not pay income tax, you have no skin in the game. You need to be able to say, I'm going to vote for him because whatever reason, and then you go out and vote. So I think that you pass that law and the voting percentages will go way up. Because
think,
and that goes back to your word appreciation. Because if you don't have any skin in the game, you don't truly have an appreciation for it. You're an outsider.
we discussed it before that things for free are the first which are wasted, no matter whether they cost million or billion generally. I just 2 days ago, it was officially announced that the Hyperloop of Elon Musk, which was sold to Branson, General Richard Branson, that it's completely ended. And do you remember? It's just for years. Every government in the world signed contracts and NDAs and everything, MOUs with Elon Musk to build Hyperloop there. Nobody cared that it does not exist. He never, despite him having a lot of money to build the testing track. The only testing track existing was 2 kilometers long, and I think the maximum speed was 160 kilometers instead of 1,600 kilometers, and still nobody pay attention, And this was exactly because he does not have his skin. He used all the time. He used other people's money. So he don't care, It will happen. Will he fly to Mars? I don't care. It's not my money. He will have his money. He profit his money because everybody believes him. But for what? That's the right question. And I think that it is exactly about having the appreciation, having the gratitude to, as you said, I have paid something. It can be money, it can be my work, it can be my time. It's a lot of things. And I value it. But if I get it for free, so what? I don't care. And this is exactly the point. Yes, Kevin?
You can see when the United Nations comes to Copenhagen, Copenhagen is not in any way a cheap city, but it does have cheap restaurants. But you will never, ever see the United Nations convention going to anything other than the most expensive restaurants in town. And for them, everything is free. The food is free, the travel is free, the hotels are free. And it's all luxurious stuff. It's nothing is done on a budget. At least it certainly doesn't appear that way. And it is getting to appreciation that I just get the feeling they're doing it for themselves. They're not doing it for anybody else. All the appreciation that they give goes back to themselves. Look what we're doing. It'll be wonderful. Whereas what they're really doing is having an amazing life at everyone else's expense, which they don't appreciate.
And they don't appreciate somebody speaks about it, of course. This is why they are banning and so on. So it's exactly as you said. it's quite interesting. Just from the other topic, just few days before the end of the year, Kiel, a German city, it's a harbor generally in Germany, was called the first wasteless city in Europe. Can you imagine Kiel as a harbor to be wasteless? Not at all. They maybe manage the waste, but they are not wasteless at all. But they use the term, and European Commission put a stamp and give an award and whatever. And I sent you, I think yesterday, I appreciate one thing, I said that I am not religious myself, but Buddhism is the closest to me from all the religions. And just a few days ago, on the last day of the year 2023, Buddhists start to talk about Industry 5.0. I was so surprised about it. I was so surprised that they are some way comparing the wrong way generally. They do not understand the origin, but they say Buddhism and Industry 5.0. And there are a lot of common things in there, but not lie. And they started with the lie. So I contacted all of them, which was interesting because one is two are in Malaysia, one is in the US in a monastery. And I sent to all three, I found the email addresses and I sent a message to all of them. And the only one who replied was the US guy, or US, it's a woman generally. And she replied in a way, please take me out of the mailing list. I have nothing to do with Industry 5.0. So I replied immediately, apologize, send her the link to the article. 10 minutes later, I received another email. She said, I'm sorry, it was me who wrote the article, but I do not know anything about Industry 5.0. So it was quite interesting. And somehow I feel that we will have a communication about it. But I sent her the keynote, of course, and the standard procedure. Just to tell you, we have 2 minutes to go. I am not responsible for the time, Bill.
No, we've already agreed that that the 2 minutes does not exist.
It's all the time. No, it was interesting discussion. And I think the right discussion for the beginning of the year, because again, we take something, and I think that the term was really not hijacked because it was put somewhere on the side that it's not important and so on. So who cares about gratitude? But maybe we can bring it back. Maybe we can use it as the right thing. And you mentioned the power of touch, and it is all connected. You see, every single of our communication is connected to the others. I don't like the term connecting the dots. Why should I connect dots? So I prefer to connect the thoughts and people and so on. Why dots? But I think this is what we do. Just one interesting number maybe for you. I just checked yesterday the analytics of the podcast, and there was 1,600 people already watched this, which is not bad.
That's really okay. Yeah.
Quite interesting number. It's about 5 times more than United Nations speeches, so it's not bad.
And that we can be grateful.
I would like to thank you for a great conversation. I would like to wish you and all around us have a nice year, free of waste and wasting in all its forms. Stay safe, free, be human, and appreciate your life and all around you. Thanks a lot and see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.